Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast Magic is Real. This is the podcast where we talk about near-death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences, spiritual healing, and other and all metaphysical and spiritual topics. I'm Shannon. I'm your host. I'm a psychic medium. And before we begin, I would just love to ask a very simple favor. If you like this podcast, if you like this episode, it would mean the world if you can like, subscribe, comment below, and share with anyone you think might benefit. It really helps to get the word out there that this podcast exists. And thank you for those that have done that already. And even if you don't, thank you for being here. Today, I have with me Sylvia Sollet, and I'm excited to have Sylvia here because she is a finance professional, is how I'm going to say it, who blends the world of spirituality and capital. So I'm very interested in the money, the concept of money as energy and consciousness, also being able to direct us in dealing with matters of the material world. She's also an indigenously trained shaman, and so her work as a shaman informs how she shares what she knows about wealth and capital. And I'm going to let her explain her background in that, since money and finance terms are not my forte. But I'm very happy to have you here, Sylvia. And I'm very happy that you took the time out of your schedule to join me. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Can you tell me in your own words what it is that you do professionally? And I would like to hear about your personal journey in terms of where the spirituality came into your life. Is this a lifelong thing? Was it an awakening? And what led you into both finance, the financial world, and also the spiritual world of shamanism?
Sure. So, what I do for a living, in the shortest sentence possible, is help people who are stewards of wealth have awakening experiences so they can deploy that capital in the world in more conscious ways. That's
That's
it in a nutshell. And I always think about, and when I say stewards, people can be stewards in many ways. You could be stewarding a community, you could be stewarding, financial capital, you could be at the helm of a company that has a huge impact in the world. So everybody's stewarding something. And if I can help those who are stewarding, a significant amount of whatever their capital is, if they can have awakening experiences, it's like ultra leverage. They're going to be able to apply that awakening into everything that they are and everything that they do. So I'm really obsessed with that place where awakening of the individual then also can translate into how they behave, with who they marry, how they invest. Like, how do we take that awakening and move it into the 3D in very pragmatic ways? I love that intersectionality.
I love it too, because there can be this idea that in order to be spiritual, you cannot care about material things, or that if you do, you're shallow or you're not spiritual because money is superficial and materialistic. And yet money equals safety, money equals security. Money affords us the ability to live the lives that we want to live, to help the people we want to help, to um, travel, to write, to create. There's so much that money, even though it is a creation of mankind that we've created in our society, it actually is not spiritual thing in terms of looking at it from an energy perspective. So I would like to hear your perspective on that, and then we'll get into your personal story. But I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I was listening to what you were saying because you were very openly revealing some of your money beliefs, right? Some
Yeah,
tradition. You said money is this and money is that. It's like, okay, what does she think money is? And you automatically equated money with safety and security. It's one of the codes that you're holding right now.
yeah.
So becoming conscious is just a matter of beginning to turn towards those belief systems with our awareness and presence and asking, is it really true? Is that
Yeah.
actually really true? And I think that we're in a period of awakening as a human race where we're realizing things like safety is actually not in the amount of money we have. Safety is inherent in who you actually are. Like,
Hmm.
you are inherently safe. And so, like, I think that we're untangling a lot of these money beliefs, but we are still in a like the collective money beliefs are still very strong. So I just want to say, like, we can wake up as healers or yourself as a psychic, we can begin to wake up and decondition some of those money beliefs as individuals, but we're still operating in a collective money belief system.
Yeah.
And so that is more incalcitrant and is going to take more time to change. I can see the cracks and the chinks where that is beginning to change, but I think it still is very early days of that global belief system changing. And so you may find yourself as a healer or psychic who has actually done quite a lot of inner work around your money beliefs, and it still is really hard for you to make a living. That's because there still is a collective belief system that says we don't pay our healers.
Exactly.
Pay business people, we don't pay healers, because the collective belief system is, well, the business people create value and the healers don't create value because we can't see the value of the healers right now as a collective. So some of it is the individual work, but some of it is collective work.
I agree with you. And that's what prompted me to say that is that's a lot of the limiting beliefs I hear people say, excuse me, or that they struggle with. I I'm not, I guess I'm not really meant to talk about 12 step in the public because we're not meant to. Um, it's something that we do voluntarily, and it's a nonprofit situation, and it's a self-help group. But there is a facet of the 12 step recovery group that deals with money. And I have been in and out of that program. And one of the things, and they had a subset group, which I loved, which was a group for actors, support for, not actors, sorry, creators, artists, because I live in LA. So that was somebody started that group. And that was one of the things that we talked about a lot was in the preamble, it says we have these money beliefs that artists don't make money, artists starve, artists aren't worth getting paid, my art isn't valuable. And those are the types of beliefs, excuse me, that we're working to unravel and to realize that yeah, that we all have value, and that it is an energy exchange and that sort of thing. But exactly what you're saying, the collective beliefs, societal beliefs, all of these things shape our culture, our society, and also influence individuals.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's beautiful that you brought the 12-step paradigm into the conversation,
Yeah.
because essentially it's a transmission of sobriety. And I think a lot of people say, oh, sobriety is like about drugs and alcohol. And it is, yes, it's also about everything else.
Emotional sobriety is,
You can be
yeah,
sober with everything. And so I always think of like sobriety as a um is the ability to be honest with yourself, to be real with yourself, to be grounded with yourself, I think is the ultimate form of sobriety. And so that does translate to our relationship to money. So what would it be for the listeners to ask themselves the questions, and you question, like you say right now, in what ways am I not sober around money?
yes.
Right? And in what ways can I become more sober around money? It's about how can I tell the truth more deeply in this area that for many of us can be quite triggering, or maybe we avoid.
Exactly. I actually uh, did some of the workbook of Money Drunk, Money Sober, which is a book written by Julia Cameron. She's the artist. Wait, is she the, am I getting her mixed up with someone else? Anyway, the book, um, it's one of those books that helps you work through your beliefs, and there are many of them, and there are people like you that support people in this journey. So I'd love to hear how you personally, what was your interest in? Did the money come first? Did the spirituality come first?
The spirituality.
Yeah,
So
I figured.
I had a young and actually accidental awakening when I was 19 years old. I was a student in college and like completely oblivious to any spiritual conversations at all. I would say I had like a vague, mild chronic case of God curiosity when I was younger, but wasn't driven or propelling my life, you know, in the purpose of awakening. And when I was 19 years old, somebody who I was friends with at college went and picked some psychedelic mushrooms and brought them over, and we were hanging out and said we should eat these mushrooms and we should go to this party. And this is so long ago. Like, we didn't have ChatGPT, we didn't have Google, we didn't have anything to look up safe dosing or safe facilitation or set and setting, and nothing like this. Like, it was just savage times. Just ate the mushrooms, walked to the party, and then in that party, in the middle of the party, I really accidentally had a complete and utter awakening experience, and it was just completely like you know, hit me so hard, like a tsunami. And I know that this has happened to other people. It's one of the gifts of psilocybin. Psilocybin can be a trickster medicine. So they call it the niños in Spanish. So people have a wide variety of experiences. They can give you some bumpy rides, but you also have a lot of people who've reported having really their first deep spiritual awakenings thanks to the niños. So it was kind of the case for me. But when I woke up the next morning, my next thought wasn't, wow, I can't wait to do more mushrooms. I think it was like, it would have been like, it was like 2, 3 more years before I ever tried another psychedelic again.
Yeah.
But it did make me very curious about this awakening experience. Like, what was that? And was it something that I could replicate without drugs? Um, and what would it take to replicate that? So I just started then having a real kind of almost insatiable spiritual curiosity. But I was young to have that, and I felt very different from my friends right away. They were mostly activists and environmentalists, and politically like marching on Washington. And so for them to have a friend who all of a sudden was like, actually, I think what I'm really interested in is awakening. They were like, no, 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 don't do that.
Yeah. I'm interested to know what the revelations were or what the feeling was because and I I still use psilocybin for spiritual reasons. I say please be careful like you said because it can trigger psychosis if you have a mental illness, if you have bipolar or schizophrenia. So I always have to say that I'm not recommending it or not recommending it. I'm saying for me it's been very beneficial. But in college when I did them, I didn't know anything about spirituality. I was an atheist. So to me, the experience was just like, oh, cool, I'm hallucinating. And I can see that I'm hallucinating. And that's really cool. But I wonder what in my brain is making me be able to see things moving that I know are not moving. And I just thought of it more of as something interesting and funny. Like it would make me laugh. And, I just remember like taking them and laughing until I peed my pants and then was like, that was crazy. But I didn't have like this deeper thing of, oh my God, I wonder if the veil's being peeled away and I'm actually seeing what could be the potential of things, what they could be, which is how I interpret it now. That um, when I was on them, I remember looking at a Bob Marley poster and it was him singing and it had all these tigers underneath him. And I looked at it and the tigers began to move and he literally started singing right to me. Now, I knew that I was hallucinating, right? So I was like, I know that this isn't real, so I'm not afraid. But how is my brain doing that? And now I interpret it as I'm seeing the possibilities of what matter can do, like what it could be, the potentiality of something. And so it actually could, in some sense, be real. But I know that's kind of getting a little heady about it. But in your experience, how did you know that you touched on something spiritual, deeper than just like, wow, cool, Bob Marley singing to me?
I would say like without obviously knowing how much you took and how much I took, I'm just guessing, but I would guess
I
that
couldn't tell you.
it's probably a difference of dosage in there.
Yeah.
So you might have had actually a sub-threshold heroic dose, so your mind was still sort of like,
Yes.
well, your mind was still holding court. Your mind was like, interesting that this is happening, that is happening. I did not have any, like that was so far blown out up for me. Like I don't even know how much I ate, but let's just say there was no Sylvia left.
Yeah, okay.
The mind, it wasn't a question of like, what's my mind doing right now? Like I disappeared. I completely disappeared. And I just completely merged with the universe. And the most amazing thing was I could see that anything I thought immediately became the reality around me. And it was, I've
Mhm.
never been able to, like, I'm not Eckhart Tolle. I'm not like at that level as a, being, but I can imagine there's some beings that are living in that state of consciousness 24/7. I'm living in a joyful, beautiful state of consciousness. I'm not having the experience that I think and everything of reality unfolds around every thought. I'm,
Yeah.
but that is really what's happening. It's just that we don't have the awareness of it happening.
Yes. I thank you for saying that and sharing that. So I assume you had this, and so you became curious. And as we do, when we become curious, we start to read or watch or consume more information, maybe get into meditation or whatever. What was your interest in finance specifically?
That really came much later. For 10 years after that experience, the only thing I cared about was awakening, like literally the only thing, like 24/7, all day, every day, 365. Like I was really obsessed. And I just got the opportunity to help build a school that was like a wellness institute in South America. So my work life really revolved around the healing arts for those years. And I became trained and capacitated as a healer myself. Um, and then I like sold my part of that business in the year 2000. And I had like a little bit of money to invest. It wasn't crazy money, but it was more than I needed. And it was right around the dot-com boom. And so I talked to some people about what to do and how to put it in the market. And I felt like the people who were trying to give me advice were like salespeople. And I didn't like the energy. I didn't feel like I could trust it. So I didn't invest anything. I just left it in cash at the time. And then I took a sabbatical to India. And in India was able to devote myself to some very profound spiritual practice. And I had another awakening without any substances, just through my meditation practice and with a spiritual teacher, had a very profound awakening in India. And that one lasted for like 2 weeks, where I felt very unified with like all of everything, like completely undifferentiated Sylvia. Like consciousness is doing the things, I'm not doing the things. And I thought I would stay in India and continue on this sort of spiritual path. But I started to really feel like there was a download that was coming through for me. And for those listeners that, we say like, what's a download? I feel like this was the first time I experienced a download, and I have had many more since then, but it's this sense that the universe is telling you something that you really should hear. And how do you know it? You keep getting the idea over and over and over again. Like it's one of those persistent, nagging ideas that keeps revolving. A lot of times, if you stop and you really listen to them, that is the universe giving you some kind of guidance. And the obsessive thought I kept having was you have karmas to fulfill. You need to go back to the US and you need to understand what it is. You need to have an ordinary human life. So ordinary human life means you're going to marry, have children, and you're going to learn how to work with money. And that felt very, like, felt like complete, like, if I, when I told people at the time, they were like, laugh. There's no way you're gonna, like, that's hilarious. Like, you're the last person in the world, which, maybe arguably I shouldn't work with money. I don't think I'm the best at it, but I feel like it's crazy that you would think you could work with money. But I did. I got in a program, I got trained. I went on to get my CFA charter, which is a very difficult designation. Not a lot of women have it. And then I started to really understand the language of investing. And I got, I'd say I'm pretty good at the basics. Like I really understand like core components of how to invest. And then it was really only about 8 or 9 years ago that I had the skills in both the arena of healing and also in the arena of investor to even begin to try to bring those together. And that's really when I feel like my life work kind of came to fruition. I mean, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still figuring out how this work manifests in the world, like what's the right way to get paid for it, like all of that I'm still figuring out. But I definitely feel like I've discovered what I'm really here to do in many ways, which is to help collapse these barriers that people have between how they think about their money and how they think about their God.
Yeah, I know. And there are people that you can help that might not be spiritual. And so looking at, I think it's, if I recall, it's your website, it's more, it's not as spiritual. You don't lead with the spirituality, at least in what you were doing before, that I found on you. And I can understand you can help people practically, but you can always bring in that spiritual side of yourself, even in the things that I do. I don't lead with, I teach voiceover, and I don't advertise that I'm a medium because some people might not agree with it or feel comfortable with it, but I can use my intuition in the work regardless, in helping people, to support them, because there's a lot of psychological stuff that happens with actors of lack of belief in oneself, of fear of being judged, fear of I'm not enough, psychological and spiritual sort of elements that affect a performance, that affect self-expression. So I'd love to know what kind of sort of, maybe it wasn't one eureka moment. What did you sort of realize as you were working on this, your shamanism and then your finance, where you realized the two intersect? What was it that you were realizing about how they intersect, what that means, and how you can help your clients?
I can share one story, which is actually a shamanic story. So I know that listeners to your podcast are interested in near-death experiences or ego death, as we call it sometimes. And I was studying with a tribe of ayahuasqueros in Colombia for an extended period of time. And these were really intense indigenous ceremonies. So, like all night, very, very strong ayahuasca. And kind of like the spiritual gangsters of the plant medicine world. So I was training, so I was assisting in this particular ceremony. And when you assist, you drink a little bit of the tea alongside the people who are there for the healing. So you can be in the same frequency. And this particular Taita that I was studying with liked it if we were like, he would say, like, he really wanted us to be in the frequency. He didn't want us to be sober. There's no really better nomenclature for it in that context, but he wanted us to feel the frequency. But it's very, very hard to be on your feet all night and helping people when you're also drinking the tea. So sometimes if everyone has to drink the first cup, but sometimes like after the first cup kind of wore off, you'd be like a little bit more sober and you think, I'm just going to work sober tonight. But that was happening to me this one particular night. And I just remembered that the Taita would say, I actually don't want you working sober in my ceremony. So I thought, well, I should be in integrity. So I'm going to go up and take a little bit more tea. And I said to him, just a teeny, teeny, tiny bit, like a drop. And he laughed and he gave me a little drop. And ayahuasca is such a coyote medicine. It's so there's no predictive quality to anything. A big cup could give you almost no impact, and a tiny drop can do what I'm about to tell you did to me. And within 15 minutes, I had gone to help someone in the ceremony, and next thing I know, she's looking at me. She says, "Do you need help?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really got taken down, and I would say I was speechless and unable to move. So I was in a real ego death experience, and that probably went on for like 6 hours, where I was just in a complete ego death and had to like surrender in every cell of my body. And then from that ego death, there came this vision around the future of money. And it's one of the most precious visions that I've ever been trusted with. I really shepherd this vision in my soul. And I came into a beautiful crystal cathedral. And in that crystal cathedral, there are all of these great beings, and they were praying together, and they were praying over the energy of money. And they were showing me in the vision that, because we're human and we're here to tumble and make mistakes, and, literally the meaning of being human is one who fails. So they're like, you humans don't understand money. So you have replaced God with money. And you are in a culture that is actually worshiping money as the source of safety, as the companion, as the guide, as the status, as the meaning. And you've made your lives have meaning because of the amount of money that you have. And this is such a profound error in human thinking, that all of these great beings are doing their prayers for us right now in the astral realm so that we may heal how we understand and interact with money. And as I was watching this healing go on, for whatever time in this vision, at one point I heard this booming voice just speak it like a prayer into every cell of my body, and it said, "God blesses the coders." And that's when the vision went into what's the future of currency, and that even though today what we call cryptocurrency, and it still is a very volatile asset class because we're still using our not evolved human consciousness in a speculative way in a system that is actually it's ultimately not meant for speculation, what it's ultimately being built for. And truly, like the engineers that are building these systems we should be grateful to them. And I hope that they're all very conscious and awake beings, because they're going to build systems of distribution and borderless capital that we can't even imagine from where we stand today. But it's a way of distributing economics and opportunity that, again, we don't fathom it, but it's going to give an equal economy to participate in to somebody who's living in a village in Kenya as it does to a young person living in New York City. And that's what this is what there are rails that are being built right now for this higher evolution of what money will be. That being said, we humans here are still in the trenches trying to figure it out. We healers are still here trying to figure out what's a healing even worth? Why is a healing worth 1,000, but the CEO is worth 1 million?
Yeah.
Like, we're still dealing with the human constraints and challenges around capital. So I empathize with that. I'm in those trenches with everyone who's listening right now. All I'm saying is let's become more conscious about the conversation we're having in that trench, because we have the opportunity to transform in a beautifully conscious way our relationship to capital right now. Like we're ripe for this transformation, but we're in the birth canal. We're not all the way through.
Okay, that's so well said, and even more than I'd hoped you would say. Even more rich than I sort of had even hoped for. So thank you for that. All right, so how do we figure it out? I mean, how do, what is sort of I don't want to say the answer. I'm sure everyone you work with will be different. What are the things that you focus on when you're working with a client or clients or an organization? How do you help them understand? I don't know if this is the right terminology, but understand money differently, learn to work with money differently, and yeah, however you want to explain that.
Well, I think the first step is to becoming aware of some of your limiting beliefs around
Yeah,
money. So one of my big ones is that healers can't be compensated well.
yeah,
So I'm still working on that one. And that requires self-honesty. It also requires good companionship. You want to be having that revelatory, exposed conversation with your significant life partner, with your family, like this is some of my struggles right now. Like, you want to expose these conditionings and these struggles to the light so that they can be seen, because that's really the first step, is taking it out of the unseen to the seen, which, by the way, is the meaning of the word shaman, one who takes it from the unseen to the seen. So it's from the shadows into the light. So that people do that in different ways. You can journal, um, you can use ChatGPT.
yeah.
Right? There's all kinds of communicative companions out there to help you to bring those things out for them to be exposed and seen. And I think once you see them, you yourself will have your curriculum. You know that all of these are your curriculum to master. Like, this is going to be your contribution to the awakening of capital, is for you to master your own beliefs. So my contribution, hopefully before I die, I will help create new codes or new language for healers to be richly compensated, right?
Hmm.
Because that's my belief that I was able to reveal in myself that I'm now consciously working on. And then
Right.
I have that to give back to the world if I can master that curriculum. Then
Yeah.
you have those codes then, and you get to teach those codes. So find your hidden beliefs, reveal them, bring them to the light, be investigative, honest, create whatever custom process or alchemy around them that works for you, and then teach us what you learned so we can all benefit from your
Yeah.
own awakening around your capital.
Right. And so when we bring it to the light, um, okay, so now I know what my blocks are and how and what are some ways in which I can I don't want to say eliminate the blocks because I've obviously information is knowledge. But if I have a belief that, well, okay, yes, I need to make this much money, but the economy's in shambles, or I just don't make that much money. So how can I make that extra money? I don't have the ideas, I don't have the skills or the knowledge. These are a lot of blocks that people have. I
Mm.
also understand the concept of Don't worry about the how. Just know that you're worthy. Know that we are all worthy of feeling abundant, of being able to take care of ourselves and our loved ones, and then obviously then take action towards something, but also that to some degree we don't have to know the how it comes. And I want to know what you think about that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there's good tools. There's really good tools. I think Byron Katie's The Work.
Yeah.
That's like it's free, it's available to you. Just Google Byron Katie The Work. And
Okay.
these worksheets are available. She's open sourced all of this, and they're literally the work is designed to examine unconscious belief systems.
Yeah.
That's what the work is. And so that's a great how. You can start there. Like I'm really like into us being sovereign and accountable for our state of consciousness.
Yeah.
Like, so like all of those things, like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. And again, I'm not perfect. Like I am completely susceptible to having my own meltdowns and my own process and my own difficulties in this arena. I'm just happen to be interested in sharing my story and what works for me so that someone can learn from what I've done so far. That's it. And the only thing that's really worked for me so far is you continue to bring them to the surface. They can be seen and investigated and worked with because none of them are ultimately real.
Right.
None of them are real. And the other thing I would add is there's a part of it which is about exposing limiting beliefs, but where you want to create some discernment and be careful is it's important to heal your dislike of work. We should actually love to work. So like you have to be careful because like if you say, oh, my limiting self-belief is that I have to work to make money. I don't think I have to work to make money. So I'm going to do all these Byron Katie sheets to try to get rid of
Hmm.
this belief like that you have to work to make money. Like so like I'm not teaching this is how this is how you log into your computer for 15 minutes a day from a cafe in Tulum and do nothing and then get infinite abundance. I'm not teaching that. I hope somebody else who's teaching that out there, because a lot of people have these online courses that promise to teach you stuff like that. That's great. I hope they all work and that's wonderful. I'm saying something different. I actually think we're here to work.
Hmm.
Work is holy and work is beautiful and work is extremely energizing. And so for me, the shift is like working with something is what you're supposed to do, what's aligned with your soul, and it should feel very energizing and very engaging. So I'm about the blurring of the lines between work and not working because I'm loving it so much, which is very different from I'm trying to create, infinite passive income with no work.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And it's easy for me to say I like work. I like to be productive. I don't like 9 to 5 work, but I like being of service. I like having a purpose. I like getting up and knowing what I'm going to do that day. I like knowing that I'm going to interact with people and be able to support people and then also get paid to be of service to other people in some way. And then you'll run into people that are like, well, I clean porta potties for a living. And maybe some people like that for certain reasons because they're like, oh, I mean, it's gross, but I have freedom or I get to kind of just drive a truck around or do or whatever it is. They might find value in that as well, or just knowing that, hey, someone's got to do it and I do it with joy because I know it's being helpful and I make pretty good money doing it. But there will be people that will say, well, I don't want to put down anyone's livelihood. So I'm just kind of trying to think of something kind of neutral, but well, I don't want to be working in fast food, as like like frying French fries or something. And how do I find joy in that when, of course, someone has to do that job? And there are people that hate their jobs, that don't want to be there, but somebody does have to do these jobs that a lot of people might find less than fulfilling.
Is that a question?
Kind of. It's more of like a jumping off point for a
Yeah,
conversation. Yeah.
that's a tough one because again, there are socioeconomic factors at play
Yes.
with some of these things. Like those are beyond the scope of what I can talk about spiritually because
Yeah.
if you don't have access to education and your family can afford to send you to college and you're gonna have such a different set of options than somebody who so like those to me are not spiritual,
Yeah.
spiritually addressable as per se,
Yeah, that
So
makes
like
sense.
some people are going to do jobs that frankly suck.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't really have a spiritual answer to that. And I
Yeah.
think one thing that's going to be interesting is as AI becomes more and more utilized and empowered, that a lot of what we typically thought were white collar privileged jobs could theoretically disappear. And all
Hmm.
of a sudden, the ones that we thought weren't great jobs, like all the tradespeople, are going to be actually the ones with the most job security and the
Yeah,
best jobs. So just let's see what happens.
that's very true. And you were talking about that what you know, and it's always we teach what we know, we write what we know, we share what we know. And what has worked for you overall in your life, um, in terms of your relationship with money, finding peace with money, finding um, joy even in your relationship with money. What has worked for you?
I think there are two phases to that. So the first was really examining how much I had attached the feelings of safety and security to money
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
the kinds of life decisions that I was making as a result of that and the consequences that those decisions had. Um, and understanding that that was a cost that was, it just at some point my soul's development became too high to pay that cost anymore, which is a good thing. I
Can
like
you share a bit about that, even if it's not specifics, just in general, thematically? What kinds of decisions do we make when we are like in a fear of lack or fear of,
Sure.
yeah,
I mean, I think that my first decision to marry was definitely influenced by I want to make sure that like if I had children that we would be stable and we would be secure. And I think that that was disproportionately weighted in my decision matrix at that time in my life. And then that had consequences because we weren't necessarily on this aligned on a soul's journey. Right.
yeah.
We were aligned in a more traditional family values journey, but that was by its very nature limited because at some point my soul was moving into a different realm. So,
Hmm.
that's an example of like how I was overweighting it as a decision and then the consequence that it has that we're no longer married. And
Right.
and so that's an example. And, I was recently married for the second time, and it wasn't in the decision matrix at all for various circumstances of how we met. And like it just was completely not even a part of that. That wasn't even in my consciousness. Let's put it that way. Like, it wasn't in part of anything. And then that changes the soul agreements that we were able to make as a couple because neither of us were looking for safety and security in the other. We were coming together for purposes of the soul. So it's a much deeper contract.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I would love to know from a spiritual perspective. I think there is a lot of fear around money, at least in again, maybe it is because you see more evidence of it when you're in fear of it. I've struggled with that, and I'm still on this healing journey around money where I'm in a good place with it now. And I've had a lot of fear around it to the point where I went to a 12-step program about it because I was losing sleep. I was sick to my stomach. I was constantly stressed out. And even to this day, it's on my mind way more than I really wish it were. It drives my decisions. It affects my relationships with people because I'm prioritizing money making over quality time because the anxiety tells me, well, I have to take this job because otherwise I can't pay my bills.
Have you ever tried family constellations work?
I did that one time, yes, but
Did you like it or did you? Some people are like, oh, it's
it
weird.
didn't resonate with me because I just felt like the family stuff didn't resonate. But I'm not saying it doesn't because a friend of mine did it and it really resonated with her, which is why she recommended it.
Yeah, if family constellations doesn't, I don't know if maybe IFS might be a fit, but like you might want to look at ancestral um, pieces of this because
Yeah.
it sounds like it's something that it doesn't sound like it's just you trying to manage this. It sounds like there's a whole bunch of you. Like it felt
Right.
like I just felt
Yeah.
it was like a team of ancestors around her. Like we're all just trying to figure this money thing out.
Exactly. And
She's
I'm yeah.
our spokesperson.
Exactly. And I have asked those questions. I've even texted my mom, like, what was grandma's feeling about or whatever. But I do see that in a lot of people that I know. And partly because we live in Hollywood and what's happening right now, where suddenly this was the place for entertainment. And now, in this, for the last few years, tons of us are out of work. And so it's been a really scary time where I've been, I really like David Bayer. I don't know if you listen to his podcast at all, but he's a self help, he's a recovering addict. He has a lot of books about recovery, but also self-help and also spirituality and creating your own reality and that sort of thing. And I have been in a really good flow with, you know what? I know I'm provided for. I know I'm safe. Stay on the path and not losing sleep about it. But a lot of people will say, and I've heard people say this, okay, well, how can I not worry when the cost of living is so high? And like there are logistical things like, but if I don't make this money, I have to pay my rent. And how do I do that if those kinds of
Yeah.
things?
Well, it depends. It depends where you are. So, like, I wouldn't spiritually counsel somebody who's literally looking at a bear in a field,
Right.
and I'm like, there's a bear in the field. Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do when you see a bear. I don't think you're supposed to run, but whatever you're supposed to do, do the thing. Like,
Yes.
there's a
Yeah.
bear.
To protect yourself from the bear.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so a good rule of thumb is to like look at your financial situation right now, and like, do you have 6 months of savings in case of emergency, right? Do you
Hmm.
have that 6 month um, that can cover all of your expenses for 6 months? Is your debt too high, right? Are you carrying too much in credit card debts? Like, you want to manage some, like, if have $400 in the bank account and your income uh, is fluctuating because you're in the entertainment industry, so it's high sometimes and down.
Yeah.
Now you have 400 in your savings account and you have a $20,000 credit card bill. That's probably a time when you need to have some sleepless nights.
Right. Because you got to figure it out.
There's something you got to really figure out there and needs your attention. And so your whole being is like, God, pay attention to this because it's serious. But if you have stabilized financially and you have 6 months and you've got some oxygen around you in terms of survival, then that's the moment to start this kind of inquiry of, you know, okay, like if you're feeling anxious, again, all of this is about self-inquiry. You face the anxiety. Like, can you be uncomfortable with the anxiety? And listen to it. Like, is it a young child part of yourself that's speaking? Is it an ancestor that's speaking? What is that voice saying? And how could the adult, mature, sovereign self of you give witness to these young, scared parts? And then you keep doing that, and you are the Mother Mary, and these are all of the scared children. And so it's that consciousness of just, sure, come to me, my child. Like, I know you're feeling afraid. Come, 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 come. And then,
Hmm.
you hold that witnessing of those parts and you breathe into it. And you can even try some mantras. And one of my favorite mantras is around the feeling of enough. So the enoughness, and to really sit with that, say, I'm enough,
Hmm.
and it is enough. And this is something that you will begin to see those parts of yourself pop. What are the triggers that make those parts of yourself pop up? Instagram's a big one for most people.
Yeah.
Instagram is almost designed to make you feel like you don't have enough. I don't know how anyone opens Instagram and doesn't feel that way within the first
Yeah.
minutes. But please follow my Instagram. I am really, really trying to put out a bad signal. That is not about the not enoughness. Like, my
Yeah.
Instagram is purposefully not super glamorous or super fake. So you
What's the name of it? It'll be below, but just to
it's just
reiterate.
you can find me under Sylvia Solid. But that the world is so programmed to give you a different message because right now so much of our economy is really fueled by consumerism.
Yep.
And so we are swimming in the soup of consumerism, um, 24/7, and it's designed to make us want to buy things. And
Yeah.
so these are forces of capitalism. So to really sit with that, whether it's looking at your monthly budget or looking at your investments or looking at a purchase you want to make, is like, first to really sit with that feeling of like, I am enough and it is enough. And that enoughness it's just a really, really good energetic field to begin to navigate your financial decisions. It certainly has changed. Like I used to really love to do online shopping, and I like just got a lot of pleasure out of buying dresses online. It's like my thing. And at some point I just realized like I was like, I really just feel like I have enough.
Yeah.
You know,
How many dresses do we need?
how many dresses do you need? So I
Mm.
will confess that when I was at the height of this, I counted my dresses and I owned 100 dresses.
That's a lot of dresses.
A lot of dresses. And today I have a rule that everything in my closet I have to wear. And if I
Hmm.
haven't worn it 6 months, I'm obligated to give it away. So that means I have to actually touch everything in a 6 month period, which is it's a really good barometer for me. And I don't know if I haven't counted my dresses recently, I probably have like 20 to 21 dresses now. Because that's enough with a 6 month rotation. If you have more than that, you're not going to wear them every 6 months.
It's true. I have so many clothes because I'm a thrifter and I sell thrifted clothes. So I end up with just rooms full of things. And if I guarantee you, if 70% of it were gone, I wouldn't even notice. I wouldn't miss any. I wouldn't think, where is that one thing? And so now what I've been doing is when I see an Instagram ad, which is always targeted and it works because it's preying on exactly what I've been, it's exactly what I've been eating. And it's on sale for only 24 hours. So I'd better take advantage right now because if I don't, I'm going to miss the sale. I always ask myself, do I need this or do I want this? And then some things are a bit in between. It's like, do I need a new lipstick? Well, I've already got 10 of them. But like when one lipstick runs out, I would say, yeah, I feel more comfortable. Like I'm always, I like to wear lipstick. That's just my thing. And so, yes, do I need it? Technically, if it were between that and food, no. But do I like to have that on hand? Yes. So there are questions that I ask myself now. It's like, how important is this? And look, if even though it's only $20, what if you put that $20 in a savings account instead? Every time you want to buy something that you already have enough of, how about just put it into a savings account? That way, when you have an unexpected bill, like you said, you have your emergency fund and you have savings so that anything can happen. We can get sick, we can have setbacks, and then that's, yeah. And so I think
And
yeah,
like sometimes people don't like to feel restrained
yeah,
financially. So like a lot of the advice from colleagues, oh, don't get that Starbucks. Got to save that money. People are like, well, I don't want to deprive myself, and so I try not to give deprivation
yeah.
advice because I think it just makes people feel miserable. But like like upgrading your filters on why you make purchases is a great way to look at
Oh, can you
it,
yeah,
right?
please, can you share
Like
about that?
upgrade filters. So like when I was able to identify that even when I feel like I'm in the state of consciousness of enough, and even when I'm feeling very balanced, there's a part of me that loves like variety and
Mhm.
newness. And
Yeah,
I think that's part of who I am as the feminine. Like I don't like to cook the same thing twice. I almost never cook the same thing twice. Like
yeah.
I'll always do something different because I love variety. And so for me, what I was able to realize with having 100 dresses is like part of it is because I love the variety of like different dresses. And I also have like a completely ridiculous memory for knowing what I wore to whenever I met anybody in all the past time of my life. Like I can recall any outfit from
Me
any,
too.
it's crazy. So like I never replicate with anybody. So it's just like this weird like ability I have also to have infinite variety with dresses. So when I looked at that, I said, oh, well, for me, somebody like me, a great solution is rent the runway
Oh, yes.
because I don't have to purchase and own and keep just, fashion is a very highly environmentally destructive industry. Like for me to keep buying that many dresses, I am the worst consumer on the planet and I don't need to own it. I'm wearing a rented dress right now.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And that's why I thrift because I can wear it. Then when I'm tired of it, I can sell it, recycle it, in that sense. And hopefully that's why I sell it. A lot of that's a whole other conversation, but so much. clothing ends up in landfills. And so I shop usually at like the outlets. And the thing is, there's still every day just piles and piles of clothes. And I remember having not a debate, it was very friendly, but it was somebody had said, people who resell clothing are taking advantage of lower socioeconomic people. And I was like, have you ever been to a Goodwill outlet before? There are it's a cycle all day of rotating bins that get emptied. If we don't take no, there's no homeless person that doesn't have enough clothes because I'm shopping at the at the outlets and selling the clothing. There is such an overabundance. It's filling up landfills.
Yeah. In San Pedro Atacama in the desert, there's a whole mountain of our throwaway clothes. In San
Right.
Pedro Atacama in Chile, yeah, there's a landfill that's all like old clothes. It's a crazy place. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, but for you, like the consumerism might be more linked to creativity, right? And so to identify like what is the purchase giving me that's actually the positive side of it's giving me,
Yeah.
and how can I meet that need in myself with different ways? So but that for me is like I was able to say I love variety, so I'm going to meet my variety with renting dresses instead of owning, and I can therefore reduce my footprint on the earth.
I love that note about emotional awareness. What is the relationship with why, if you do find yourself buying more than you really need, and if that works for you and you have the money, do what you want. But why are we doing that? What is the feeling it's giving us? Is it safety? Is it security? Is it comfort? Whatever the thing is, and then look at that emotion and how can we bring that emotion? How can we create that emotion within ourselves, within our there are many ways. Comfort, I could eat a bowl of soup. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I want a new I want a new thing, a new sweater. I have like 50 sweaters and I wear maybe three of them. So I don't need more sweaters to make me feel warm and cozy. I already have a weighted blanket. I already have all of these things. But so
Yeah.
what is this hole in my, like, what is missing comfort wise?
Yeah, yeah. Or like if you let's say somebody says, "Oh, I really want to buy design things. I'm like really want to have status." Well, like go for a run and like run up like the stairs like Rocky and play the Rocky soundtrack in your ears and like glow with your like healthy like I just ran and I'm a strong person glow. That's status. Like go put that on, you know,
Yeah.
this radiant physically healthy self. Like there's like if what you figure out what you're looking for and find alternative paths to having that without having to purchase it because that's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah. If there's one thing that you want people to know about spirituality and finances and the world that you know, what is it that you really want people to know that you think would help them? If you had to just off the cuff, off the top of your head, what do you feel like people really need to know?
Stay curious and educate yourself, become financially literate, understand how money works
Hmm.
so you can participate in investing and in the economy. It's not above anybody's head. It's not hard. It's not anything that you can't do. So stay curious, empower yourself, and I wish everyone a very confident and abundant relationship to their capital.
I love that. And I think it's important that you said that. Because I think that has been one thing where I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand this. I'm terrible at numbers. This is too confusing. And when people are saying invest, I'm like, I don't know how to do any of that. And I need to invest to make money and may not feel like I have the funds to pay someone like you to sort of guide me on the path. And that's where I've always gotten stuck. So what do you
Change.
suggest for? Yeah, tell me.
That's changing. There's like wonderful low cost platforms where you can learn, empower yourself, and you can, even hire like an advisor that isn't that expensive. But mo most people can do this without an advisor if they develop the emotional discipline to not pull in and out of the market when the market is volatile. Like that's so
That's
most of
yeah.
what you need to learn is behavioral, and most of what you would even pay an advisor for is behavioral because the basics are not that complicated. So you have 6 months that you save in a liquid like money market or cash because you don't want to invest that in the stock market because if you end up having an emergency when the stock market is down, that wouldn't be great for you.
Yeah.
So 6 months, you always wanted to have it in something that's stable and liquid. But once you have that, then you just take a certain percentage of your income, and the best practice is to really have it come out before you even see it, having
Hmm.
it automatically withdrawn, kind of protocol like out of your checkbook, but then just have it auto invest on a low cost platform. So my favorite is Schwab. I'm not paid to
Mm.
Schwab, maybe one day,
Yeah.
not yet.
Yeah.
And but Fidelity, those are great, extremely low cost platforms. And then what you do is you want to educate yourself primarily by what your risk tolerance is and what your time horizon is. Those are the two parameters that you really need to let their systems know. So they have questionnaires that can help you to determine like what would be an ideal investment allocation for you based on your income, how long you're investing for, what your risk tolerance is emotionally, and it will make suggestions for you. These are called asset allocations, and that basically is going to just say, well, this is how much you should have in the credit markets, this is how much you should have in stock, and it'll make recommendations, for example, that you want to have some large stocks, some mid stocks, some small stock, you know, international, a little bit of emerging markets. And you can achieve all of that with ETFs or very low cost index funds. And so you can have a portfolio like that at Schwab for, let's say, 8 or 9 basis points, which is very, very little. A typical advisor could charge you like 100.
Yeah.
It's a very, very cost effective way to invest. And Schwab is full of information and
Yeah.
educational resources and how to do this. And it's not above anyone's pay grade to figure that out, what I just explained. If you feel like you need more of that hand holding and you want like some of the coaching, like the more emotional life coaching, there are hybrid platforms. A great hybrid platform is Elvest, which is,
I'm with them.
yeah,
It's
Elvest
now
is
Betterment. It's now Betterment or bought out by Betterment, but it's great. It's
by Betterment, yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's a good one because it's a hybrid. So you can have an advisor, but you can also work with them without an advisor. And I think they do a lot of educational seminars and webinars,
They
and
do.
they're very female focused. So that's kind of on the hybrid side. And for 99% of people, that's all you need.
Right. So two more questions. One is, what do you see the future of money being? I mean, if you jump to 50 years from now or even 100, where do you think the future of money is going? Is it all going to be cashless? Is it going to be cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or what do you imagine or what would you based on what you know today imagine the future will look like?
That depends greatly on the timelines, but if I were
Yeah.
to go as far as my imagination could possibly go, I think that we will have a digital currency. I think it will be global digital currencies. We will probably have more than one because they will be different protocols and they serve different purposes, but they won't be serving a tribal nation as its purpose.
Mm.
So I think that that's going to change the opportunity set that people have around the globe to access economic markets. So it could lead to an age of prosperity and more widely distributed economics. And I think that human consciousness is going to slowly, at a glacial pace, hopefully not too glacial, move from this more tribal scarcity mindset, this mindset of like, I need to hoard all these assets for me and my people because the world's a scary place. And this kind of infinite hoarding of capital in some pockets and not enough in others. Like that requires for all human consciousness to wake up and to realize that like there is no such thing as scarcity and that there can be more abundance for all, but that's a shift in consciousness that I would hope and I have the vision will happen. And I think that AI is playing a role in that because AI will change the nature of work and almost inevitably is going to have really big economic impacts. um, Nobody really knows what that's going to look like yet, right? So Are we going to have universal income in the future? Are we going to have even more disparate wealth, you know, than we have today? Is the delta widening? Is it narrowing? And we don't really know. But it is going to vastly change what work means for humans.
Yeah, it's a big topic of discussion. I'm a voice actor. It's a big topic of discussion in our community. Um, a lot of us have lost a lot of work to AI, and I also see the value in AI in other ways. I think it can be very helpful, and yet there's a lot of fear around it's taking all, like, now we have Waymo cars, now we have everything's a robot. And so is there any work left for humans? And what are we going to do if money depends on work? What do you feel about the whole
I think you're going to
it,
need to double down on that mediumship.
I do too, because I
AI is
mean,
not taking that job from you.
yeah, I'm not a predictor either. I don't see things in the future necessarily, or if I do, I wouldn't know if it's true. I wouldn't know to trust what I'm seeing, because I do not consider myself a future predictor. I don't like to meddle in that. There's too much room for error. But in summation, I would just love for you to share about you, your business, how people can work with you, what you have coming up to offer people, where they can reach you, anything you want to share, whether it's workshops or one-on-ones, or how you work with your clients, and how can people get in touch with you so that they can benefit
Sure.
from your services.
You can go to the sylvia.com, and it's Sylvia with a Y. Sign up for my newsletter. I have a book that's coming out in June of 2026. It's called Soul Naked. Those are my stories from the shamanic petri dish. So,
Ooh,
an interesting personal book. And if people want to find the work that I'm doing, the best thing to do is go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, and can reach out to me there.
wonderful. Sylvia, thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Shannon. Thanks
I
for having me.
really, yeah, I know that you have so much insight and so much wisdom that I know people will really benefit from. And I do encourage everyone to visit your website, and just really appreciate your time and energy in joining me to contribute to this project of mine, which is my passion project, which the intention of is to help people to heal, to grow, to find inspiration, to take the fear out of death, to embrace their own inner power, and realize that we do have more power than we think, that we're not powerless. And you have been a great contribution to that. And so thank you again. Really appreciate you being here, Sylvia.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.